Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to the Daily Packers Post, where we have in-depth Green Bay Packers analysis. Great to have you with us today as we discuss the Packers' upcoming matchup in Los Angeles against the Rams, a Week 5 showdown, and the Packers at 2-2 definitely need to win this game in order to get back on track in a very competitive NFC North division. And we're going to take a look today at the top six keys to victory for the Green Bay Packers. And look, on paper, the Rams are 1-3. They are dealing with a lot of injuries. This is a game that theoretically, on paper, the Green Bay Packers should win. However, games are not played on paper. They are played on the field. The Packers dealing with some injuries of their own and some inconsistency. Look at last week against the Minnesota Vikings. It was essentially a tale of two halves where the Packers fell behind 28-0 in the first half, managed to come back, only lost by 2 points after being down 28 and had their chances to win. But again, we saw too many penalties, a little hero ball late in the game from Jordan Love trying to do a little too much, and obviously Love a little rusty in that first half trying to figure out what he could and could not do on that injured knee. So one thing that stands out when you look at the numbers ahead of this game, the Green Bay Packers need to get their running game going. Obviously, Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson, not a big part of the offense last week against the Vikings. When you fall behind 28-0, it's tough to think about running the football too often. But you come into this game, Green Bay, second best rushing attack in the league, averaging 174.5 yards per game on the ground, while the Rams' rushing defense dead last in the NFL. They're giving up more than 165 yards per game. You got to think, given Jordan Love still not 100%, the Packers able to run the ball effectively most of this season, the Rams not able to stop the run, no Aaron Donald, anymore. You're going to see a healthy dose of Josh Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson, and Green Bay has to establish the running game. If you can establish the running game, you're setting yourself up for the ability to keep the Rams defense off balance. If you come up 2nd and 5, 3rd and 3, you're in a situation where you could run, you could pass, you have a whole menu of options for your offense, and that makes things tougher on the LA Rams defense. So that is point number one. The second point, offensively, for the Packers, you need to protect Jordan Love. The knee, as I mentioned, still not 100%. And while each week, in theory, his mobility should improve just a little bit, we're not there yet. And, the Rams, not the fiercest pass rush right now. They've only recorded 7 sacks through the first 4 games of the season. They're going to try to move some of their rushers around. Byron Young right now has 2 sacks. That leads the team. He comes off the edge. I'm going to assume they're going to try to line him up against Rasheed Walker rather than Zach Tom. Zach Tom playing exceptionally well. Walker has struggled a bit with holding penalties. But the key here, make sure that Jordan Love has enough time to throw, because it's very important for the Packers to keep him clean when he's not as mobile as he normally is. And when, you just want to make sure that he has time to find open receivers. And talking about receivers, coming to our third point for the Green Bay offense in this game. No Christian Watson this week. He has the high ankle sprain that he suffered against the Vikings. But thankfully, the Packers are deep at the receiver position. You got Jaden Reed, who is playing off the charts, and we did do an article about Reed this week on thepackerspost.com. Reed has been great, catching the ball, averaging more than 19 yards a catch. He has been very dangerous on jet sweeps and end arounds, running the ball. You've got Romeo Doubs. He's been reliable. Dontavian Wicks probably going to see more deep targets. And then you got Bo Melton and Malik Heath, who will see the field more often in Watson's absence. Also, don't be surprised to see the Packers use Luke Musgrave to try to spread the field down the seam deep a little bit. Musgrave has not been as big a part of the offense as Tucker Kraft. And while Dontavian Wicks will probably take over Watson's role as the biggest deep threat as a receiver, I get the feeling that we could see Luke Musgrave run a few deep seam routes for the Packers, daring the LA Rams defense to try to keep up. Now, the Rams secondary has been struggling. Tre'Davious White is one of their better defensive backs. He's coming back from a career-threatening injury. In 4 games, he's been flagged for penalties 5 times, and he's been burned for touchdowns 4 times. You want to get on White early and attack that part of the Rams defense. If you can burn him a couple of times early, right now, he's coming back off the big injury. His confidence is probably a little bit shaky. And if you get in his head early that this is going to be a long day, you may very well be able to burn him again and again and get his confidence even lower. Turning our attention to the defense, got to get pressure on Matthew Stafford. Stafford is a Super Bowl champion quarterback. He's got the talent. What he doesn't have this week is Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, his top 2 receivers. They are both out of the lineup. Kupp unavailable, Nacua on IR. But rest assured, Stafford is a dangerous quarterback who can do damage if you give him time to throw. The Packers pass rush has struggled except for the big game against the Titans, who have a very weak offensive line. Now, the top starting guards on the Rams, Steve Avila and Jonah Jackson, are both out. And that means the Packers have to take advantage of it. That means Kenny Clark, who has struggled so far this season for Green Bay, he's got to step up and get some pressure up the middle. You may not have Devontae Wyatt due to injury. He suffered an ankle injury also against the Minnesota Vikings. So, you see a little more Carl Brooks. You see a little more TJ Slayton. And hey, it's time to get Rashawn Gary untracked. He has 1 sack this year, had another one called back by penalty, but overall, Gary has just not provided the usual consistent pressure that he has provided for the Packers in the last few years that he's been in the lineup. So, got to get some pressure. And against the Vikings in the first half, the Packers were only rushing 4 players, and they weren't getting much pressure on Sam Darnold, and Darnold was able to pick them apart. In the second half, Jeff Hafley made an adjustment. He started bringing blitzes. He had a really good blitz by the slot corner, Keyshawn Nixon. That resulted in a big play. You had a linebacker blitz, Quay Walker getting home. One of those plays, Nixon created a strip sack that the Packers recovered. You need to see Jeff Hafley, if you're starting the game off rushing with 4 guys and it's not getting there, you got to start blitzing early. Can't wait until the second half to mix things up. If you give Matthew Stafford time, he is capable of doing some damage. So the Packers have to cut that off and make sure he's under pressure enough during this game that he's not able to pick you apart. And if Jair Alexander and Carrington Valentine are either out of the lineup or still slowed by injuries, even though they're playing, yeah, you may not have the top receivers available in Nacua and Kupp, but if the Packers are down to their, 3rd or 4th boundary corner, you don't want to have that situation where even average receivers can do a little damage. Get pressure on Matthew Stafford, and you're in pretty good shape. And then the other key on defense, keep the Rams offense one-dimensional. The Rams are not a great running team. Right now, they're averaging a little more than 88 yards a game on the ground. That is, near the bottom of the league. They are a pass-first offense. Kyron Williams has 258 yards, but he's averaging only 3.5 yards per carry. The Packers have to make sure that the Rams do not establish a steady running game. You keep them one-dimensional and have them in 3rd and 6, 3rd and 10, 3rd and long situations where they must pass. That helps the pass rush, and it also helps the Packers defense just know what's coming when it comes to the LA attack. Sean McVay, their play caller, their head coach, he's an imaginative and creative play caller, and I think the battle between McVay and Jeff Hafley is going to be an interesting one throughout this game, and this is going to be in many ways a test for Jeff Hafley. How well does he adjust? How does he do in a chess match with one of the more creative offensive minds in the game? Keep an eye on that. And then one special teams key for this game. Let's make sure that Braden Narveson does his job well. The Packers did bring in 2 kickers for tryouts on Tuesday this week. Narveson has missed at least 1 kick in every game this season. Now, okay, in the Tennessee game, the miss got wiped out by a penalty. So officially, he did not miss a kick in that game. But realistically, he has been missing. He's been missing wide right every time. And it's been wide right when he's kicking from the left hash mark. Narveson, the Packers like what he's done in practice. So they are sticking with him. But look, this is a Green Bay Packers team that wants to contend for a Super Bowl now. They are capable of doing that, but you can't have your kicker missing 37-yard field goals in a game where you lose by 2 points. So Narveson, the weather should be good. We're talking LA. We're not talking, Lambeau Field in December or Denver in the middle of winter. The weather should be good. Narveson needs to be good. He's got to do it to save his job and to really get a little more confidence both for himself and for the coaching staff. Rich Bisaccia, Matt LaFleur, having some confidence in him would go a long way. As for our prediction, I think the Packers get the job done today, on Sunday rather. My prediction, Packers 30, Rams 21. Should be a good one. The Packers can't beat themselves with penalties and sloppy play. They are the better team on paper. Now they've got to get it done on the football field. For more in-depth daily coverage of the Green Bay Packers, check out our website, thepackerspost.com. Make sure you subscribe to the Daily Packers Post here on YouTube. We will have in-depth Packer analysis all year long. I'm Gil Martin. Thank you for listening to and watching the Daily Packers Post. Go, Pack, go.